This weather is about to turn upside down. Let's take a look at the overall precipitation anomalies over the last 7 days. And we can start off with the West Coast. It's been predominantly dry out there for you guys over the last 7 days. But we've seen a little bit of a noticeable change around the Four Corners regions with some scattered rain showers for them, but a very noticeable change out here in Texas with some much welcome rains over the last 7 days. And all those rains continued across portions of the southeast and then, of course, up the eastern seaboard, especially into New England and especially into Maine. They've seen well above average precipitation. And as far as the temperature goes, remember, we had that little bit of a cool down across the middle of the country, especially in along the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest. And that actually cooler than average weather filtered down all the way down into the portions of the South. At the same time, out here in the Pacific Northwest, you guys went well above average. So you saw some 5 to 7 degrees to temperatures above average, but all that changes over the next 7 days where it just kind of completely turns upside down. Where you have been warm, you're going to definitely go on to the much cooler, if not almost colder side, especially by Thursday. And then in the middle of the country, it's completely the opposite, where you're going to see those well above average temperatures come back for a good part of the southern plains, as well as into the central plains, then the upper Midwest, and especially up here in Canada. And then we've got these low pressure centers off the Florida coast that's going to be hugging up the eastern seaboard, as obviously you're going to put you guys below average for the predominantly over the next 7 days. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. And I would love to reach 200,000 subscribers by the end of the month. And you can help me get there by subscribing to the channel and following all my daily content. And if you're in the market for a weather station, I definitely highly recommend the Tempest from Weatherflow. It's actually the one I personally had for the last 3 years. I know a lot of you guys have taken advantage of this on this channel, but it's a complete 5-in-1 system. It's all solar. It literally takes 10 minutes to install. And once you set it up, it's kind of a set and forget it. You got a convenient app. My whole entire family has the app on their phone. Plus they have a desktop version as well. And you can be a part of the 55,000 now in the Tempest community. But I have a discount code if you are interested in wanting to purchase one of these for yourself. That is PALWeather10. It offers you 10% off and free shipping. So I'll have this link in the description below along with the coupon code. After checkout, you plug that in and you can enjoy the 10% off and free shipping and have one for yourself. But let's take you back the last 24 hours as far as the storm reports, because we are going to be seeing a series of short waves are going to be coming across the West Coast, impacting the central plains, running into those well above average temperatures. And with the cold air on the West Coast, that spells trouble for severe storms. So we started seeing it yesterday into last night. Most of these were basically high wind threats and some larger hail threat. We did have one report of a tornado up here in Kansas, but we did have pockets of energy that raped across portions of Oklahoma, as far as into portions of North Texas and to Wichita Falls regions. Some higher wind gust, and there were some quarter size, some pockets of golf ball size hail last night. And I think that actually continues. We'll be watching a series of these short waves are going to be coming across, and this one's pretty significant. And this is the one that's going to bring some pretty chilly air across the West Coast. Those temperatures drop big time by the time we head into Thursday. So Thursday is a pretty important day because we'll be watching this vorticity off the West Coast. It's going to be sending these pulses of short waves across the central plains. But also at the same time, we've got this stalled frontal boundary that's been sitting out of Florida. I think by then we'll have a little low pressure center that forms off the coastline there, and we'll be having to watch this as its most guidance as this actually traversing up the eastern seaboard. But look at those temperatures by the time we head into Thursday, folks. This is low temperatures and it's going to feel chilly. I mean, these are 30s on the map, of course, in the higher elevations, even some freezing temperatures up there in British Columbia. But you got widespread, 40s and 50s showing up on the map as well into Washington and Oregon and Northern California, Nevada, back into Idaho and Montana. Even into Utah gets in the action. The higher elevations into Flagstaff and Arizona, even portions of New Mexico. So these areas are going to be experiencing much cooler than average conditions with that trough coming in. And of course, at the very high elevations, it's getting to be that time of year, 10,000 feet or higher, likely going to be getting snow on those mountaintops. And of course, as we trend deeper into September, and of course as we go into October, the snow line is going to be going a little bit further south, lower in elevations. So we'll be seeing more of this as we, of course, get deeper into fall, and especially obviously into winter. So, but here's the storm threat. This is the day on Thursday, and this has actually been upgraded. So you got these series of pulses of energy. Obviously, you got plenty of heat to work with. These temperatures are well into the 90s, if not almost in the upper 90s. And as these pulses of energy come across, this looks to be again a later in the evening type of event, but some of these could be very strong winds and some larger hail. You got the cold air aloft up above by about 5,000 feet, so that's going to be setting the stage for more rounds of severe storms, and some of those could be some larger hail producers in and around southern portions of Oklahoma, far extreme portions of the Red River, even kind of sneaking into northern half of the North Texas region. And then as they shift off into East Texas, they will be weakening, likely just like last night, transferring to more of a damaging wind threat or a higher wind gust as those storms try to collapse. But we'll have these pulses of energy. And then that vorticity off the West Coast, now that's going to be highlighted moving across the portions of the Dakotas. This is the day on Friday. So these areas will likely even probably be enhanced actually by the time we get closer to Friday, into Sioux Falls, into Rapid City, back into North Platte, those regions, into Hastings, into Topeka. Those areas are under the gun to seeing some of those larger hailstones and some damaging winds. And I think that trend just continues. So we'll have a multi-day event across the middle of the country. We'll be having to watch for powerful short waves in the heat of the afternoon, later evening time frame. Well, those could be some larger hail producers and some damaging winds. So by the time we head into Saturday along this cool front here, we'll back into Des Moines, back into Omaha, into Topeka again, Wichita, all the way down in the Tulsa region into Kansas City. Those are the favorite areas, and this will likely be expanded as we get closer to the day. So, but all eyes will be turning off the East Coast. Along the southeast coast, well, that low pressure center starts to get his act together, maybe drops down to 1,009 millibar, but most guidance is right quadrant loaded. This is going to be a heavy rain producer, and then depending on the exact track where this low pressure is going to be sitting, makes all the difference of the world as far as the higher winds and of course the heavier rains. But the National Hurricane Center does in fact upgrade this system to a 40% probability of it turning into some subtropical feature. It's going to start off as non-tropical, but it has about a 2-day window that it could turn subtropical. So that's why they have this highlighted, and if it could actually take a name. So it's going to be one of those systems that's going to continue to strengthen all the way as it comes ashore. And most guidance actually puts this ashore somewhere in the vicinity of North Carolina into portions of Virginia Beach area by the time we head into Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon time frame. So we'll be having to watch this exact track. You really can't track something until you have a closed low, and I think that actually forms probably sometime tomorrow, as it spins up. So once this takes shape, we'll probably have a track on this, and then this is going to be moving northbound. But these old areas, essentially from South Carolina to North Carolina, then raking up the coastline into Virginia Beach, all the way into, say, Jersey, Delaware, into the DC region, Maryland, all those areas. And I think eventually just drape up the east, I-95 corridor, and eventually back into Maine again. You get hit hard again with just yet another system. But the heat is going to be the real deal. This is the first day of fall, and it's going to be completely the upside down because Texas still thinks it's like the first day of summer because we're going to have temperatures in the upper 90s, if not some approaching the triple digit mark for the first day of fall, folks. I mean, they just can't get rid of this heat ridge that's been really over that area since June, technically. I mean, it's been a long summer for those places in the south, and you're still having to deal with that heat still coming back for, you know, that first week of fall, because we got well above average temperatures for you guys, you know, with that heat dome. So here's the setup off the eastern seaboard. This is a right side loaded event. So once this moves up the coast, you're going to have very dry air coming in on the backside. They're very dry across the, you know, the Ohio Valley back into Florida. But then those areas on the right side of this is going to get all the action with the heavier rains and the tropical storm force wind gust along the eastern seaboard. So we'll be tracking this, as well as be tracking that little bit of a cool front across the middle of the country. That's going to set the stage for a renewed round of strong to severe thunderstorms, you know, along that cold front. And then some of these actually could be producing some little bit heavier rain. This is probably likely a good sign for those areas down here in northeast Texas and the portions of central Texas. It's been a long time since you've seen, you know, precipitation, you know, rain amounts, you know, 2 inches per hour. So the air mass is pretty humid right now. It's going to be very warm. And by the time you head into Sunday, racking into that, you know, those upper 90 temperatures, and then the clash, that's going to be spelling likely some heavier rain. Yes, you guys, heavy rain in portions of North Texas into East Texas. So this is going to be definitely a welcome sight. It looks to be likely the biggest rainfall you might have seen in, you know, a long time in some of these areas. So here is the setup on the surface map. So you got that kind of a arcing shape of this low pressure center. You got some higher winds around the closed low, and then the fishtail, you know, S hook, like the question mark hook, you know, coming down off through the central plains. And then on the tail end of that, that's where I think it's going to be some heavier rains. And then look at that, guys. That's, I think, the beginning stages of what will be some heavier rains moving back into the Pacific Northwest. You know, was back into, like, say, Washington and Oregon here. These areas will likely be hit hard with cooler, chillier, dampier, you know, weather for an extended period of time, as I think the weather is finally going to flip to that, you know, wetter type season that you typically see this time of year. I think the rains are coming back for the Pacific Northwest. But there's the, you know, there's temperatures after this cool front. I call it a cool front because, you know, it really doesn't drop temperatures like that much. It's still actually almost 10 degrees considering the peak, what you're going to see on the day on Saturday and Sunday. But nonetheless, it's still going to drop temperatures still above average for many of these areas. So we didn't really get, you know, like a massive fall front yet. You know, it's been delayed. It's kind of been delayed, what you typically see this time of year. But yeah, it's coming in October. Don't worry. But here's the rain. So here's the rain of over the next 7 days. So there's the rain coming back in the Pacific Northwest. Some of these are going to be some heavier amounts, you know, considering you haven't really seen much over the last really couple of months in the middle of the country with these series of short waves dry in the deserts. But along these short waves, that's where the impulses of energy are going to be this week. So multiple inches of rain across the Dakotas, through Minnesota, through portions of Iowa, especially into Missouri, getting down here into eastern Oklahoma, into Arkansas, then going down into portions of North Texas, maybe even central Texas, Waco region, maybe Austin regions. Finally get some decent rains down there into East Texas. And of course, we'll be tracking the overall track exactly where this low pressure is going to unfold. But it's going to originate into Florida, where they got stalled frontal boundary right now, but then coming up the eastern seaboard, and that's obviously going to bring some heavier rains along with it. So multiple inches of rain. Of course, a big difference if this just travels another 50 to 100 miles inland. You know, you've got 8 to 10 inch swath of heavy rain instead of the 2 to 4. So that's going to be a significant change. Really depends on exactly where that low pressure is going to form tomorrow. And then of course it's going to head up, you know, the eastern seaboard. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. I do like this video, and definitely check out my winter forecast after this video and catch me in the next update, where I protect you before and after the storm.